Education background.
Education background. I'm going to doing a maths degree next year. I've done some. I'm interested in science. I'm a musician as well.
There's no crowd.
Okay. So that's good because. Sorry, go on. That's quite good because modern evolutionary biology is all based on mathematics.
Yeah, it is.
So I heard a talk recently by a very prominent evolutionary biologist, and he says at the cutting edge, if you want to get into the industry, you need to study population genetics, and to do that you need maths. So look, I come from the view that I believe Darwinian evolution is speculative, it's based on a probabilistic framework, it has assumptions, and its core mechanism is being challenged with alternatives.
What's the alternative?
Well, there's many alternatives, but before I get into that, what I want to know is what is your position? Like, I'm a creationist from the perspective that I believe there is a creator, but I believe the term creationist is inescapable because we all believe in creation. The only difference is I believe there is an original starting point, which is God. He created everything. And from your perspective, I'm assuming you don't believe in God, but you do believe there was the first cell, the first self-replicating molecule.
I always say I don't know about God. I don't believe really that I don't think there's enough evidence to say that there is a God. There is a God. Whoever was a God. So that's my stance on that. I don't think there is, but if you present me with the evidence, then I'll change my mind.
Okay. And what's your thoughts about Darwinian evolution?
I think there's enough evidence to say that it's practically fact, and there's not. I wouldn't say there's many actually viable alternatives.
Okay. Do you believe it's true? Like that is what the best explanation is?
I think at the moment that's the best explanation, and the best explanation there has ever been, and it's pretty unarguable. It's quite sorry. It's one of the best tested. It's just I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me it's just a theory. It is just. I mean, it is just a theory. But,
the thing is,
theory is one of the best tested theories out there. It's just the way it's the best.
Well, look,
tested theory.
the highest that science can reach in terms of certainty is a theory.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when somebody says, "I got a theory that 9/11 was an inside job," or whatever, right? That's just a random hodgepodge idea. But when a scientist says theory, they're referring to something which takes account of a broad
everything
body of evidence with different subfields and all the rest. But I think what we need to do first is define a few terms. Evolution simply means change in gene frequencies in a population over time. It doesn't really mean anything more than that. So evolution, is it a theory, is it a fact? It's just an observation. We know evolution to be true. Okay? Now, Darwinian evolution is the particular claim that there's a tree of life, starting off with the first origin of life, the first self-replicating cell, which led to all of the biodiversity, and this was led by natural selection working on random mutations. Now, I think this idea, and when I was at school, I was taught like this is it, this is the holy grail, we got it. However, when you actually look at the works of evolutionary biologists, you see it is actually a very controversial idea. It is not set in stone, and there's actually many problems with it. I'll give you one. Darwin said that this has to work gradually. There has to be a very small, incremental, gradual, adaptive benefit which is then accumulated by natural selection. But as paleontologists have been looking at the fossil record, they've been basically saying the trade secret of our industry is there is no gradualism. This is what Stephen Jay Gould said, right? That he came up with his alternative, the punctuated equilibrium theory, right? So the fundamental assumption of Darwinism, which is slow mutations, random mutations, is actually been challenged by mainstream paleontologists.
Okay, so what's their alternative? Are you saying that they have found things that haven't gone gradually, it's gone from one stage to another?
According to their interpretation.
Okay.
So what they say
they may have found that. They may have found something that contradicts what they have, but I would say that there's way too much evidence for Darwin.
So what would you say is the main lines of evidence?
Main lines of evidence of the countless fossils that are always found and just put into the records of the paleontology. And I'm not a biologist, so I don't. I've just done biology. That's all I know. I know that the method is Dawah.
The method is?
The method is Dawah.
Okay.
And I kind of trust the theory. I trust their method, their methodology.
But what is it about the fossil record that supports the Darwinian paradigm? Because I can use
it's gradual. Yeah.
No, well, not really. A lot of paleontologists are saying
we can observe the gradual change on a smaller scale. As you scale down, this is why you get immune to antibiotics. The bacteria gets immune to antibiotics. It happens on a small scale because they can breathe fast. So they double every X amount of seconds.
Yeah, they have a very quick generation.
It's literally you're observing Darwinian evolution in a petri dish.
Well,
you're observing this because the random mutations, and then the strongest ones survive, then they get stronger. That's literally the foundation of what you just told me. So,
you see, that thing there, it's a non-starter to use that to then look at the fossil record and say we've got the same thing, because when we actually look at the fossil record, we have things which Darwin pointed out himself which were not in line with his theory. Chapter 6 of The Origin of Species, Darwin says problems with the theory, right? And one of the problems he points out is the Cambrian explosion. That we had this, in geological times, there was a
sudden increase of
biodiversity. And as more and more research has been done on the Cambrian period, this problem has gotten worse, which is why Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldridge, and these are atheist evolutionary biologists, what they basically said is gradualism doesn't work anymore. Okay. And you may think, well, we can drop gradualism, we'll still have Darwinism. Well, you can't, because Darwin left gradualism, extreme gradualism, as a falsification test for his theory. And recently we've also observed that lizards on an island, they go through evolutionary change, which should take millions of years. They do that within thousands of years. Actually, not thousands of years, a much quicker timescale. So changes that should have been done in thousands of years were done in basically a lifetime, like 20, 30
Okay,
years.
so wait, can you tell me the name of that?
This is on, if you just put Lizard Evolution Island.
Lizard Evolution on a single island?
Island, yeah. So this was when a new lizard was introduced in an island. The whole idea of Darwinian evolution is that you have...
But that change will take thousands of years.
Yeah, it should have taken
there's a change that should have taken...
Basically, the change was much, much faster.
Okay.
And the thing is, evolution itself is not a term which you can only subscribe to Darwinism. Evolution was known before Darwin. All Darwin did is he came up with a mechanism. Now, his mechanism fundamentally assumed that mutations have to be random. Sorry, variations have to be random, and also that you have to have gradualism.
Yeah.
Since we now have observed with our own eyes that gradualism has been challenged by species that we can observe in a lifetime, and also in the fossil record, we know that the theory is in serious trouble.
All right. So, how many papers were on this subject of the lizards?
Well, at the moment, that's just one example. I'll give you a few more.
Okay, so I mean, you can give me lots of points against it. I'm not an expert on the subject. Is your point going to conclude to that there is no evolution?
No, evolution, like we described.
It might not be as we described it, as we are taught in school. It might not be like that. But
no, evolution is change in gene frequencies in a population over time.
Yeah, that's true. That's undeniable.
So that's trivial, because there's nothing that leads that to the tree of life, or natural selection.
Wait, there's nothing that leads.
You can't equivocate
gradual change to the tree of life.
Yeah, so, because there's no trajectory. Remember, the tree of life is the idea that there's one origin, and grass, you, me, human beings, mosquitoes, they all go back to the last universal common ancestor.
I disagree. I'd say that there is a logic that can follow that kind of proves that it's kind of logical, isn't it? You have different environments. You have things that adapt to different environments, and that leads on to different things being made, different species.
Because remember, what Darwin came up with was this. you can look at all of life right now, and you can look at all the similarities,
And they all go down to what?
well, that's what he assumed. But people before him already came up with this idea that there's things which are similar, so they must have a common ancestor. The only reason why they started taking this idea seriously is because he proposed a mechanism, which was natural selection working on variations. Now, the
So
reason
this is true. You agree with natural selection variations and how this...
yeah, but it's a trivial fact.
Yeah.
But his idea was this is what led the tree of life.
Okay, so what's your... Alright, so what's your...
So my point here is this. I can look, and not only I, evolutionary biologists can look at the same data and they can say, well, mutation-driven evolution, which was a rival to Darwinism, which is that you don't have small mutations, you actually have what is known as hopeful monsters, right? Richard Goldsmith, he's an evolutionary biologist, he came up with this idea. Or you can come up with Lamarckian evolution, which was an idea which went back to John Baptiste Lamarck. Or you can go back to a new idea, which is known as evolution by natural genetic engineering. Now, these are complete alternatives to Darwinian evolution. Now, we are told that Darwinian evolution is a fact, is true. But if it was a fact, then these alternatives would not exist.
So you're saying that there are alternatives to it, but you're... From what I'm hearing, they all seem to go back to the same thing, so they all seem to have the same result.
In what way?
They all the same result as things change.
Yeah, but the thing is, evolution, if you simply define it as biological change over time, today we define it in terms of population genetics, but say if we define it purely as change over time, biological change over time, this goes back 3,000 years. This was known by the ancient Hindus, it was known by the ancient Greeks, it was known by the Chinese as well. And it was completely trivial and uncontroversial. The reason why evolution became controversial is when Darwin assumed there was one origin, there was a tree of life, and this was driven by random mutations being accumulated by natural selection, so random variations. That's the controversial part. And the thing about that controversial part is we've been told that this is true when, if you look at evolutionary biology, there is a lot of dispute about that central claim.
Oh, well, a lot of dispute compared with the amount of evidence they have. I mean, I would, you have these theories, you have the best tested theories, evolution and quantum theory, okay? You have...
evolution is not a theory, Darwinian evolution is the theory,
okay,
evolution is the observation.
Darwinian evolution, you have all the best tested theories, they're all, the biggest stars attract the most controversy. That you got that concept, and of course you'll have alternatives, of course, but at the moment there's too much evidence to just dismiss Darwinian evolution.
Okay.
Of course there's. When you come out with me, when you come out to me with 1,000 different papers from 1,000 different universities saying this is true, this completely blows Darwinian evolution out of the water, then I'll listen. Then I'll go, okay, fair enough. So, but you're probably. I mean, I'll probably...
You're saying it's not like a fringe opinion?
Yeah, I'd say that, yes, to any big theory you can find lots and lots of good counterpoints. To any good point you can find lots of good counterpoints. But just because there are good counterpoints doesn't mean that all these counterpoints accumulate to a disproof.
No, it doesn't accumulate to a disproof. What it does show is that this is a very speculative theory.
Okay.
And one of the things that Darwin did in The Origin of Species, which is why I respect him more than I respect people like Richard Dawkins and others, is right at the beginning of The Origin of Species, he says, you can take all of the facts in this book. By facts, he means observation. So some of the facts that we know today from the different fields are, we know things from biochemistry, we know things from genetics, we know things from anatomy, from psychology, from linguistics. You can take all these facts